Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am Justin, the snowplow driver.
I'm Nico, the mailman from Hey Arnold who really fucking hates the snow but still gets the job done.
And I'm Dan, the snowman.
Okay.
And we are here today to discuss The Lodge, that is the 2019 movie. Now, before we get into it real quick, we have to put out a quick trigger warning. This movie does have a kind of graphic depiction of suicide, and we'll be discussing that concept within this. So this is just the warning for that up front. So, directed by Veronika, Franz, and Severin Fiala, we've got Riley Keough as Grace Marshall, Jaden Martell as Aiden Hall, Leah McHugh as Mia Hall, and the great Richard Armitage as Richard Hall.
Is he the great?
All right, then, Richard playing
Was
Richard.
he knighted?
His voice just, it melts people like butter. Anyways, we open with Aiden and Mia Hall. They're going with their mother, Laura, to visit their father because the parents are kind of separated, so they're going to go stay with the father now. When they arrive, Richard informs his wife, Laura, that he wants to finalize their divorce because he wants to marry his new girlfriend, Grace. Laura leaves, goes home, and promptly kills herself. This kind of throws the children and the family into disarray, and at the funeral, Mia exclaims, while she's like sobbing, that her mother will not be able to get into heaven. Probably because, suicide is a sin, so she's worried that she won't be able to get into heaven. So that's kind of a bleak opening. Nico, what follows?
Right, so we have a time skip to 6 months later when Richard tells his kids that they're going to be spending Christmas with Grace at their family lodge, all of them together for the holiday for the first time. We also then learned that Grace was the sole survivor of an extremist Christian cult, a cult that Richard was himself researching. And while the four of them are vacationing, Grace tries to befriend the kids, but it doesn't go too well, and there's a whole bunch of Catholic iconography in the house that doesn't exactly make her feel at ease either. Eventually, Richard alerts everyone that he has to leave them and return to work for a few days, leaving Grace with the kids for however long he's gone.
I mean, Dan, how does that shake loose?
So with Richard absent, Mia and Aiden act like straight up assholes to Grace. They kind of blame her for their mother's death, suicide, so they're just assholes. Additionally, things happen around the house. Little things like Mia's doll goes missing. The Christmas presents that Grace got the children wind up in her suitcase. And the kids say that they didn't do anything. So this culminates with the kids leaving Grace a message on her bathroom mirror while she was taking a shower. And Aiden actually catches a glimpse of Grace coming out of the shower. She confronts Aiden, and he kind of apologizes a little bit in the sense that he prepares her some hot chocolate as kind of a little...
Olive branch?
Yeah, a little olive branch. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they all go to sleep.
All right. Well, the next morning, Grace awakens to a rather startling revelation. All of the food, the personal belongings of everyone, the Christmas decorations, and very importantly, Grace's medication, like all that stuff is just gone. She confronts Mia and Aiden, and they say they had nothing to do with it. Additionally, all of the cell phones in the house are dead. There's no power in the house for them to charge their phones, and they have no way of contacting the outside world. So basically, they just hunker down to deal with this raging snowstorm that's outside. Aiden then tells Grace after his sister leaves the room that he had a really weird dream where basically they all died of carbon monoxide poisoning due to a faulty gas generator. So a lot of really weird things are starting to happen. And I mean, Nico, what happens after that?
So, in defiance of Aiden's continued fuckery, Grace leaves the cabin and ventures out in hopes of finding some kind of rescue. She loses track of time, though, and happens upon this seemingly impossibly constructed house that looks like a cross. And inside it, we see the visage of her old cult leader, her father, in the window. She doesn't find any kind of sanctuary there, though, so she leaves again in another attempt to find help, but ends up unknowingly going in circles and losing what little remains of her sanity. So in the throes of a full-on nervous breakdown, Aiden and Mia find Grace eventually on the porch, and the kids help her inside.
Okay, things are definitely going from bad to worse, but Dan, what happens after?
So now Aiden kind of posits this theory that the three of them are actually dead and stuck in purgatory for their sins. To Grace, this makes sense, given that she had seen the two of them crying over their obituaries. Grace comes to fully believe this theory as the trauma of her past in the cult echoes back into her reality for her, skewing her perceptions. Aiden even actually fakes hanging himself to prove that they're dead and can't actually die. So at one point, Grace is outside and she finds her dog outside, dead, frozen to death. And when she comes back in, she's crying over it. And Mia comes out and cries as well and admits that Mia is actually the one that let the dog out and it's her fault the dog had died.
Someone let the Baha men know.
Oh no. Oh no. So Grace's mental state continues to deteriorate, as you would expect after this, and she fully regresses into the mindset she had as a cult member as a child. She tells the kids that they have to repent for their sins and then begins to harm herself.
So, I mean, Nico, how does this all end?
Not well, Justin. Not fucking
No.
well. Just then, Richard finally arrives and runs back into the house, and he sees Grace with the gun, clearly unhinged, and asks her to give him the gun. Unfortunately, she shoots him right in the face, and the children run away. Aiden then attempts to drive the dad's car away, but fails, and the kids are intercepted by Grace. And the movie ends with the four of them, including Dad's corpse, sitting at a dinner table. And Grace places duct tape with the word sin over Aiden and Mia's mouth, echoing the mass suicide that she lived through in her own cult, as she glances over at the gun on the table, and the movie ends.
Wow, what an ending. So we'll go ahead and we'll take it from the top here. Dan, audio, what'd you think about it?
I liked it. I thought everything sounded great from a technical perspective. The music was pretty good too. There actually wasn't a whole lot of music in this one. There's definitely some, of course, but it was kind of scattered throughout. And when it was there, it was more to set the mood. Well, I guess all music sets the mood, but it was
It sets the mood.
it was much more like creepy and suspenseful, I guess. And I think it was, I might be wrong on this, but I think at least the vast majority of it was all strings anyways. There wasn't any like, or much synthesizers and more quote unquote like modern synthetic sounds, pretty much all orchestral.
Okay. I mean, Nico, what was your take on that? You agree with Dan?
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is a much more minimal sort of movie in terms of the audio. It is much more designed towards creating a just stark, empty landscape that reflects the setting that the characters are in. And towards that end, the audio being a little bit more sparse definitely reflects that.
I'm in agreement. I also really like the audio. I also really like the visuals. I think that they did a really good job. So the majority of the film takes place inside the, titular lodge. And I think they really do a good job of framing their angles so that even if they're in the same room multiple times, the room appears different. And it oftentimes can reflect the mental state of the characters, namely Grace. When she feels more disheveled, sometimes they get like a shot at an angle to make the room appear more disheveled. And additionally, when Grace goes outside, this leads to me to my favorite shot and scene in the whole movie. When she looks at the house that Nico was talking about, you can see her, like her figure, kind of juxtaposed against the gigantic house. And there's mountains in the background. And to me, it's badass. I really, really dug that. I like snow. So I kind of like the way that looked.
He was a great character in Final Fantasy 13, yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. Dan, I need a lightning fast response from you. How do you feel about the visuals?
I loved them. I thought that, much like you were saying, with those, not just that one particular scene, but there were a lot of other scenes that were similar to that. Sort of very dark or contrasting scenes, small lone person against a large backdrop of, scenery or darkness or snow or a room in the house or something. I actually liked a lot of the cinematography and I loved the visuals.
Okay. Nico, your take?
I agree with both of you. And this movie, in my opinion, has used darkness the best we've seen since The Descent. Like, the being in this oppressive lodge, it truly feels just almost haunted with how truly black and dark the scenes are, with the shots revealing very little details and precious small amounts of light. It's an oppressive scene for sure.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and switch gears here. And I think it's time to, Nico, I think it's time to fight the eternal war.
Oh, no.
once
Oh no.
again, what genre is this? And I'm gonna mount my stallion, grab my
Please,
lance, and
after
tell
you.
you that I don't I don't really think this is horror.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go ahead and lay out my rationale and my reasons as to
Yes, tell me
why.
why you're wrong.
Yes, I will. So I think that for at least, while I was waiting for the movie, I thought while the first hour or so was a fairly compelling drama, I really didn't see elements of horror too much. I think sometimes the audio would do this thing where the music would get more menacing for sure, but I didn't really see anything horrific about those scenes. And there's a lot in that first hour that, again, to me, contributes to more like a psychological drama. But again, and this is my personal viewpoint, which I'm sure you may or may not disagree with, I think in order for something to be horror, I think the goal has to be that it's trying to scare you in some way. Now, whether or not it actually succeeds at that, that's TBD, but I think it has to actually try to scare you, evoke a response of fear. And I think for the vast majority of this movie, it does no such thing. Even when Grace fully kind of loses it and starts pursuing the kids, I think you don't feel fear from that. At least I don't, because you're made to feel so sympathetic for Grace. So I don't really feel that level of horror from it. You almost feel like this is somebody who just snapped, and instead I feel bad for Grace. I don't feel that. But I want to go ahead and get your take on it. We'll go ahead and take the correct stance now. Go ahead.
So I will say I absolutely feel horrible for Grace, just through and through. I was sympathetic for her the entire time, but I do take sort of the opposite stance, as we've mentioned on a couple other episodes. I view horror as something that doesn't necessarily have to be setting out to scare you, but if the overall trappings of the film are itself horrifying or disturbing, I can still consider that horror personally. And this sort of brings to light a term that Justin was talking about earlier before we got on the pod of prestige horror. Do you want to say a little bit about that, Justin?
Yeah, I do. So, prestige horror is a term that I've seen, kind of bandied about a little bit. It's sometimes called elevated horror or post horror. Yes, much like
Post-hardcore.
post.
Okay.
Yeah, I know
okay.
it's like post. Yeah, post
Melodic
hardcore,
death
post
horror.
grunge. I sincerely don't know, but it seems to be the films that it's commonly associated with are The Witch, Hereditary, which wink wink, we never saw Hereditary for this podcast, and Midsummer's another one, and this film as well. Basically, films that do not have a reliance on jump scares or gore to really get across their point. Movies can have those things, but it seems to be more based around world building, really, really getting down some level of nuance and drama. And again, it's a term that's somewhat difficult to define, as the definition seems to be examples of movies rather than an exact, like, hey, this is what it contains.
It's a new term for sure. Yeah.
I just wanted to know, first off, does that seem kind of like snobby or elitist
Yes.
to you at all to even have this term here in the first place?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what I thought. As soon as I saw it, I was like, okay. And while granted, I can use this to my advantage because a lot of the movies they describe, I don't fucking like.
And I fucking love.
So this is a good tool, but it's just interesting that they have that term prestige. I don't even like the word prestige horror.
Yeah.
Prestige. Why is it more prestigious than Friday the 13th? Why is it more prestigious than a lot of movies? That doesn't make much sense to me.
This movie didn't kill a fucking snake on camera for real.
But I will say as well, I think it also has to do with, for a long time, horror was overlooked and is still overlooked when it is a movie like a slasher or something like that. Those movies never win any awards, no matter how good they are. Just critics don't seem to really dig the genre. But I think specifically additions of drama into these, because that's a common theme between a lot of those movies they brought up. I think that makes it more savory, appetizing to the
Certainly
critics.
more
They
like
wanna-
academic in a sense.
Yeah. They want to munch.
I want a munch!
I don't know, but Dan, I think it's time for you to take a bite at it. What would you say? First off, I mean, how do you weigh in on the horror or not? And secondly, if you do agree it's horror, what kind of genre do you think it falls into?
So To the earlier point, I'm sort of a combination of both of you.
Oh.
I don't think that a film necessarily needs to scare you to be horror. I think that dread is another sort of emotion that can be horrific. So it's interesting that you had brought up, Midsummer and Hereditary, because I think that those films did something that this movie tried but didn't work for to me, in the sense that on those films, near the beginning, something very horrific or dreadful happens. And then throughout the rest of the movie, even through the lighter drama parts, you're sort of like off kilter. You're put off a little bit because of that such dramatic, traumatic experience put you off. So this movie, the mother commits suicide, and it was sort of a shock, but it wasn't quite dramatic or traumatic enough for me to feel that way throughout the drama parts. So I don't think you need to be scared the whole movie, or the main point of the movie to be scared, but I don't consider this movie horror. I think that it didn't do enough dread and it didn't do enough things. I put it at more of a dark psychological drama, I guess.
Okay.
That near the end, near the end maybe had some horror, but not enough to consider the whole movie horror to me.
Okay.
Justin 1, Nico 0. That's okay.
Oh,
No, what are you talking about? This is more like Justin 506, Nico 601. Like, this fight has raged for eons and will continue to
Okay,
rage.
yeah.
So, yeah, but it's always good to, bring that horse back into the race, because it is interesting to discuss. And this is getting kind of academic here, but I want to ask you guys something. Who's to blame? Now, Nico happened to watch this film before I did, and I was given a single text. Fuck them kids. And
yep.
sure enough, throughout the course of the movie, I saw his point. It was somewhat resplendent in nature, but
Resplendent.
I
love it.
I do want to know who's to blame for this situation, and who's to blame for Grace losing it and the end result where the father's dead, the kids have been duct taped, may end up being killed by Grace, and Grace herself having kind of had, realistically, a break from reality. Who's to blame for all this? I'm going to go ahead and pick someone who I think is going to have the right answer. Dan, who's to blame?
The kids, 100% the kids. Fuck them
All right,
kids.
stop
My
talking.
man.
Stop talking. Nico, who's to blame for this?
Fuck them kids. 100%. What were you expecting?
Okay. I see your point, but I raise you.
But I raise you. Also, fuck them kids.
Richard. I think it's Richard's fault. I blame Richard.
Oh, okay. Go on. I'm
Okay, why?
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
So, first and foremost, Richard didn't do a very good job of the bedding in situation with the kids, with Grace. He knew that their mother killed herself 6 months previously, and the kids want nothing to do with her. They even tell the father, we don't want anything to do with Grace. We want nothing to do with Grace. It's her fault. We view it as her fault. I feel like he went from 0 to 100. You hang out first. You let Grace, watch them for an evening or something like that. Repeated exposure. You don't just, you're going to get locked up in a cabin for a couple days,
Yeah.
and what happens
Yeah,
happens.
that was fucked up. I'm not going to front.
Yeah, that was like not really considering the kid's point of view at all. And he didn't really even consider Grace's needs, because he took her up to this cabin where there was a whole bunch of iconography that she was going to be put off by. Like, damn, dude, at least like your wife has passed on. You might want to take her giant ass cross off the wall. Like, you might want to, remove certain things. He basically set her up with the mother's hat that she accidentally puts on, because she just grabs a hat and the kids are like, oh, that's our mother's hat. Well, the kids are now angry. Grace is like kind of feeling shitty because she didn't know that that was the mother's hat. And again, we're looking at Richard as the person who's at fault here,
That's fair.
And I think he then leaves. Why would you
He
leave?
shouldn't have fucking left. Straight up.
And not only that, but Grace, he knew that about her condition and how she probably required a little more attention than, was going on here. And I don't really know, what her condition is, but she's a little bit frail, there's certain things that she can and can't handle. And there's a part where he asks her, he's like, do you think, can you do it? Can you watch the kids? And she's like, yeah, I got it. And even in that scene, she's holding the pill bottle behind her back while she's telling him that. Like she's going to be relying on those pills to make it through. You know, this could have been just much better handled with much more open communication, dialogue, honesty. Like, Grace is a little sick, so she really needs these pills. It's important to me to know that you're not going to hurt her. That would have been key because you look at the kids, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but it's almost like the classic, this spiraled way out of control. And yes, they are to blame. You know, they're culpable for their actions, but I really put the blame more so on the father. But I'll listen to your rebuke and tell me why it's just fuck them kids in general.
I mean, they quite literally did gaslight her. Like, they get this little gas heater, and then
Literally gaslight.
at that point, you know, she falls asleep, and that's when Aiden's like, I dreamt we all died from the gas heater. Oh, gosh. And, like, the part that really fucks me up is these little fuckers are geniuses.
Yeah, they are.
We see in the beginning, like, they have a model house of the lodge, and they have in each room the little miniatures of what they're gonna do there. We see that they even have, Aiden has his little fucking harness for when he's gonna, oh gosh, I hung myself. And we see the scenes where Grace is passed out on the couch. We can tell that they planned each and every detail of this. And to your point, I will say that, yeah, dude did a shit job of raising his kids, but damn, what do you think?
I think that dude did a shit job, but I don't think that he is directly to blame. I think he helped to create the situation that did that. But bro, like those kids went way above and beyond in their efforts to fuck over this girl. And like, they know that she's on medication. They know her history. They watched the cult video of the suicide, the mass suicide and everything. Like, even as a child, I mean, they're not like young kids. I mean, Aiden's probably what, a teenager?
Something like that, yeah.
And
Aiden's like 17, 16.
yeah, and Mia was maybe what, like 10 or something? I don't know. And like, you're old enough to understand what trauma is, and that you shouldn't fuck with somebody like that. Or at least old enough to understand that there are consequences. Like, what do you think is going to happen when you gaslight somebody like that? And like, to fake hang yourself, they just went way above what they should have done. And they're just fucking bullies. And like, what do you think? And they got the dog killed. Like,
that's the part that really fucked me up. Yes, that part, Justin.
So many were just incredible amounts of red flags. And it's like, how did you think this would end up? Like, what did you think would happen?
I don't know.
So yeah, fuck them kids.
All right, now here's a question, and I do want to toss this out there. Do you think that Grace is somebody who maybe the father, maybe even unbeknownst to Grace, but do you think that the father was maybe cheating on his wife with Grace, which led to the separation? Because he had been writing this book, and we're not really given a timetable of how long he had been separated from Laura, I believe her name was.
Alicia Silverstone's character, which, by the way, she's in this movie for all of 5 minutes.
She's a top billed cast too, though.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where there's a lot left up to interpretation. The kids, you know, they blame Grace for their parents being separated. And truth be told, we have no insight into whether or not how culpable she may be. So I want to know, and you couldn't tell it from her personality, but let's say Grace did home wreck. Would you feel better or worse about the kids?
Neither.
Yeah, neither. Like, honestly, the degree to which they did this Dexter's Lab level of fuckery, I have no remorse or sadness for what happened with those kids.
Same.
I think they were the ones with no remorse or sadness. But
also,
I want to ask you now, do you think they feel bad at any point about what they're doing?
See, I don't know. Because, I mean, I feel like there may have been 2 moments where they did.
Mm-hmm.
One, when the dog died.
Right.
Because it seemed like Mia was actually sad. And that's sort of when they decided, okay, I think that's when they decided, like,
That's
okay,
enough.
we got to stop doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the other part, I'm going on and off with this, is when Grace decides to go out in the storm
Right.
and just like brave the storm and just leave because Grace leaves. And as she's walking down the steps, Mia and Aiden are like, no, I don't even think they say no. They're just like calling her name. And then like under his breath, Aiden says, don't go, like really quietly. And I feel like that was like a moment of, no, actually, please don't go. But I think that both times were short-lived regret and do not make up for all the other bullshit.
Oh, I will say, because I had a quick counter to you, Dan. I don't think they knew about her mental issues, Grace. That documentary seemed to stop when she was 12. It didn't seem to continue on into her adult life. It just told the story
They
of the
still
cult.
hid the meds, though.
They know that she took meds, and she said multiple times, I need my meds. Like, I need these.
Right.
And I think that they were old enough to understand, maybe not the full extent and everything, but I think that they could catch on.
True. I will say, and again, not really in defense, but in defense, she had a very quick break. She like straight up snapped. That was over like 2 days.
Given the
Well,
circumstances, though.
She was convinced that everyone was dead. People fake hung themselves. All of the food in your house just disappeared. Everything in your house just fucking disappeared. Like, I would snap too.
I will say shout out to the kids for the commitment. Like, they were cold and hungry, and we're still like, yep, we're still doing this.
Yep.
Yeah, I bet you they were like sneaking downstairs and eating some Teddy Grahams and whatnot, like when Grace wasn't looking. So, well, first off, let's just discuss. Is that cross-shaped house really there, or is it just a figment of her mind and imagination?
I think it's a full-on hallucination.
I do too, yeah.
So how do we feel about seeing things from an unreliable viewpoint? And when did you realize that this was an unreliable viewpoint and Grace was perhaps hallucinating things?
So it started to click for me during the gaslighting scene because while that's happening, they're watching two movies on the screen. They're watching The Thing and Jack Frost, both of which sort of have themes about like, don't really trust what's going on. There's more than meets the eye, Transformers, et cetera, and that really sort of clued us into the sort of just the whole conceit of like, there's more going on than what you see here. And personally, I love that shit. I love whenever there's this sort of like postmodern take on things where you have to question what's even going on as it's happening when it's done well. And I think it's done well in this. I have a feeling that you disagree, Justin.
Yeah. So I realized that she was kind of hallucinating when I saw the house. Because I took a second and I kind of sketched the house on like a piece of paper. And I was thinking to myself,
this isn't right.
I was like, there's no way.
You couldn't just look at it.
It is no, I mean, you never know.
You had to draw it so you could look at your drawing instead of the screen.
I mean, you never know. I actually like rewound a bunch of times. I was like, nah, no way. And I feel like the kind of unreliable viewpoint thing, if they were going to do it, I would have preferred for it to have been more deeply embedded throughout the movie and perhaps last a little bit longer than it actually did. I think we're told and informed of her unreliableness, for lack of a better word. I think we're told a little too early.
Okay.
I think I would have liked it a little bit more if it had been deeper and maybe lasted a little bit longer. Because throughout the movie, we do see, Grace being unsettled and not really sitting right, despite her best attempts at, everything. And I mean, Dan, I have something else to ask you, something that I feel like only you can answer. So how do you feel about this movie's kind of reversal of the trope, the innocence of children? Because here we see these two kids being, fuck them, they're evil. So how do you see that reversal, and why do you think they chose to go that way?
So I didn't really like that reversal too much. And it's not because of the concept itself. Like, I wouldn't mind having that be there. But to me, it just put a weird tone in the film. I wasn't sure who was supposed to be the bad guy. Because at certain times, Grace, especially near the end when she's kind of psychotic and sort of breaks and is about to kill people, I think she's supposed to be the bad guy. But for so long in the movie, and the kids were the bad guys, I was like, wait, no, they're the bad guys. So it just kind of almost like confused me. So the impact at the end, what was supposed to be sort of the bigger parts, didn't really impact me because I didn't know who the bad guy was. I didn't feel bad for the kids. I felt really bad for Grace, but at this point, now she's the bad guy, I guess. That whole sort of reversal just, I don't think it was executed very well in this. I think it would have been cool if it was executed better, but yeah.
All right, and I will say, Nico, I wanted to ask you real quick.
Mm.
Is there something to be said about the fact that the father was researching cults and just so happened to fall for, the daughter of this insane cult that he was looking at?
Yeah, that's a big fucking hard red flag for me, dog. Like,
It's a hard red flag.
it's a hard red. Could have phrased that a little bit better. Yeah, no, that was a mistake. Dude looks good. He's Richard fucking Armitage. Surely he could have gotten with someone else who didn't have a past like this. And like, I'm not trying to say, like people with traumatic histories aren't worth love or anything. Clearly Grace would have been a better person if not for this whole fuckery. But like, come on, bro. You didn't need to do that.
And that's my personal little fan theory that's what causes the big schism and split in the family and why the kids automatically hate Grace, even though Grace probably didn't do anything and Grace probably wasn't aware of a lot. I almost feel like Richard, he was doing this research, he found her attractive, and, maybe he's the kind of person who just can't help but help people in that kind of way. Like he feels bad and feels attracted to that kind of thing.
I identify with that. And being far enough removed from the situation, what a fucking dumbass.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things, and it is sad. And I mean, Dan, we already said we feel sad for Grace, but do you think if Richard had stayed, that everything would have been fine?
I don't think everything would have been really, really fine, but I don't think people would have flipped like this. I think it wouldn't have been movie worthy if it stayed. I think there would have been some like just normal family drama and kids not liking, the new woman in the family and the father trying to get them to like, that kind of stuff. More of a just straight up drama. But I don't think people would have died.
Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like if the father had been there, he would have just been like, all right, but I know y'all little bastards took the food though. Like,
yeah,
give me back the food. Also, dude was kind of raw with it though. Like he was like, you know what I mean? Like
no, I don't.
Piping down Grace in like this wooden cabin for his kids to hear.
Yeah.
Like you already know the situation is tense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, let me work out some of this tension right now. And just like goes to town. You hear her like giggling. Hee hee. And like the kids are out here like, I can't sleep. Stop it. So I don't know. I feel like that just added fuel to the fire. That was unnecessary, bro. You could have kept it in your pants till Christmas. So I don't know why you're laughing. It's true, Nico. That present was opened early, and that was a mistake.
Wow.
So moving forward now, what would you do? So we're going to be individual here. There's no backup. There's no crew. You solo on this one.
Oh.
So I'm going to put you in the shoes of Grace.
Oh, Christ.
And we're going to take a look now. So you're Grace, and so the kids have already been kind of dicks to you already. We're gonna go ahead and we can even, it doesn't matter. You can gender bend it. You're the young attractive man who just happened to have a past, and now you're in this kind of cougar situation right now, and
hell yeah.
And now you're just like, okay, cool. So the kids are dicks, and then your fiance, I guess, is like, yeah, I'm out, deuces. And you wake up the next morning and all the food is gone, all the Christmas decorations that you painstakingly put up are gone. What do? And your phone's dead too.
So what I would do is I would be super passive aggressive about it. I would write a little post-it note on the fridge, note to self, get vasectomy. And just leave it out there for those fuckers to see.
What are you going to do about the food?
Shit. Yeah, I hadn't thought that far ahead.
Too busy plotting revenge.
I'm on a one-track mind after this movie, you see.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I think I would probably devolve into a similarly catatonic state, honestly.
Really? You think you would?
I mean, like,
right.
I would explore, but, like, all of the iconography going on there and that one fucking painting that we keep coming back to, I'm not about to go looking
Yeah.
around. Like, fuck that.
Okay. Dan, same situation for you. You wake up the next morning, everything's gone, kids acting at the fool.
See, this is fucking tough because I feel like everything Grace did was like understandable.
Yeah.
And she made the right choices, I think, with the caveat of she's not totally mentally well. So the couple times that she may have like fucked up a little bit, like, is understandable. So if I was in that situation, I would probably be passive aggressive to the kids too.
My man.
I would just be like, all right, fine, fuck it. Y'all don't want food, then we won't have food. And I would like hunt that shit down. I would try to find it.
True.
But I don't know.
All right, see, this is where I'm gonna go ahead and dust off my jacket. Ugh. Here's what I would do. Fuck a passive aggressive. I'm gonna be straight up aggressive. Wake up in the morning. Listen, if I don't have my Milo,
Oh, shit.
it's over. I'll be like, yo, check it out. You think I'm just stopping with the rooms? No, we are checking every inch of this place until we find it. That's where Grace fucked up. She checked a bed and then stopped. That is not what I'm doing. I'm checking the whole house. I might be like, yo, we're just gonna burn this whole house down then. Like, I would do some ridiculous, outlandish bullshit. Also, secondly, I wanna say, you know what the most unrealistic part of this movie was?
What's that?
iPhone's running out of battery.
What?
Like, Grace had an iPhone.
Disagree. As an iPhone user, I disagree.
I thought y'all had.
I mean, you don't even have an iPhone.
Whoa, how do you know I don't have an iPhone?
Bruh.
Okay, well, I came with my Samsung Galaxy TM, sponsor us, and it has a great battery life. So, yeah, I'd be okay. But real talk, her phone was charging, and then it's like completely dead where the kid's playing like Temple Run on her phone the whole night.
Probably.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like even accounting for the phones, I would still search the whole house top to bottom, find the food. I would be like, listen, I don't think it's a ghost, yo. I think it's you guys.
Just straight confront him like, look, fuck
Yeah,
y'all.
I'd be like, I think it's you guys. I don't think a ghost is really writing mom with a heart in the bathroom when I'm taking a shower.
No. I will say after like day one, maybe after day two, I don't know. I would definitely have sat the kids down and been like, all right, we're having a conversation. Like even forgetting about the like food disappearance and shit,
Yeah.
but like this is a mad awkward trip. We're just gonna hash it out real quick.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't do it like right away because I'm not quite like that. But like after a day or so, I would be like, all right, we're figuring this shit out.
She
Yeah.
did try that with Aiden, to be fair.
She did.
True,
And you know what?
true.
She messed up because the weak point wasn't Aiden. Because I kind of get the feeling that Aiden would do anything for his little sister. So if Mia kind of came to terms with what was going on, then that might work. But I think it's time now to glance over to Rotten Tomatoes to check out what they say about this movie. So we've got a 74% from the critics and a 51% from the audience. Big oof in the room. So I gotta ask, where's this movie at for you guys? I'm gonna go ahead and start off with you, Dan. If you could give a quick what you like, what you don't like, and what you give it.
So I loved, as we talked about before, the visuals, the audio, sort of all the technical parts of that were incredible. I found most of the characters to be, well, no, I found Grace to be very relatable, and I liked her, and I understood her, which I give the movie a lot of credit for that. However, I feel like the last 30 minutes was just a big bruh moment. Like the whole 30 minutes, I was just like, no fucking way. As soon as you find out, like when Aiden is like, I think we're dead. And then there's like 10, 15 minutes where you think that they're all dead. I was just like, nah, that's a cop out. Like that, it didn't do it very well. And then you find out that they're just gaslighting her the whole time. And I was like, fuck that. And then the end I found really I didn't think the end could happen. Like the kids are running away and she's just like slowly walking there. Like, no, fucking attack her. Like, are you just going to let her sit you at a table and put tape on your mouth? Like, no.
Yo.
What?
Yo, you hit it right on the head. Listen, Aiden is like a 16-year-old, like, young adult almost. If Grace shot my father and then like, or even if she like shot and then it clicked empty, I would have tackled her ass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have
Yep.
totally, and I didn't do the what would you do this way on purpose, but Grace is unhinged. She's not even thinking straight. She probably thinks she can't even be
Mm-mm.
hurt. Like, I would have not like maliciously hurt her, but I would have definitely disabled her and definitely like
Yeah.
taken the gun away. Also,
Yep.
that man not have been the smartest move by the dad.
Show your gun.
Just like introduce,
And then leave.
yeah, just be like, yo, here's a gun, deuces him out. And
On the label, you will see Chekhov.
I was just like, come on, man. Just like, you're going to be gone for like 2 days. I don't know how entirely necessary that is. But in any case, I feel like, Dan, what would you give the movie though?
I'm going to have to give this one a 44.
Wow.
I apologize for that in the edits, but yo,
Yeah, I liked the first half. The second half I just really disliked.
I'm going to hop on the shoulders of giants, aka Dan, and I'm going to say that first off, I would give this one a 48. Let me break it down. Audio, great. Visuals, great. Riley Keough, fucking fantastic. Fucking incredible. Her acting was amazing. I felt sad when I had to feel sad. Even, like even the scenes where we only see her laugh with the father when they're like getting it in. And I just, in kind of a weird but not so weird way, like even her laugh was just really attractive and wholesome. Like I really dug it. I'm into audio. So like it's just one of those things where I really liked it. And she has such a nice smile and such this kind of almost quiet, innocent personality. And then she flips. And there's even the parts where she rages out at the daughter because she thinks she's talking on the phone, but the phone's dead, so she was just pretending. And she goes from anger to kind of almost like self-doubt. And she was being gaslit, so that's perfect. If this was just me grading, Riley's acting, it would be way higher. But unfortunately, good acting could not save the plot. I was extremely let down by the second half. It just, no, sorry, couldn't do it. A lot of reasons I talked about, just like literally what Dan said, copy paste it. I was like, bruh, boo. Like the whole like last 30 minutes, I was like, no way. And I'm sorry, but the father stood there with like a gun to his head, didn't attempt to move it, didn't attempt to like get out of the way. I was like, bruh, don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, so I give it a 48. Nico, how about you?
So, listeners will probably guess that I like this, given that I like movies akin to this, and they
Prestige,
prestige
horror.
horror. Even though
You're
I'm not
very prestigious.
even though I'm not a fan of the term prestige horror, I did still like this. I think it definitely could have been better, but I really dig whenever there are sort of like, I don't want to say studies in like one idea per se, but I think this movie had an idea and it ran with it. And even though it had some shoddy moments, I will say I think this is a masterclass in foreshadowing for what it's worth, even though the ending is, well, abrupt. And for those reasons, I'm going to give it a 79.
Okay.
Now
okay.
it's time to throw the dice. Recommend, Nico?
I
You gave it a 79.
I do recommend it. It's just I hesitate to enthusiastically recommend it because I can see this being a difficult watch for a lot of people. And I understand why. So
Taking that out of it, let's say somebody didn't necessarily have, those difficulties watching it. Is that something you would still recommend?
I mean, yeah, I think so. Just for all the other reasons that I mentioned, yeah.
Okay. Dan, recommend?
I don't think so. No.
I'm going to jump in that raft and say no. I also don't recommend it. Given that Dan and I both didn't recommend it, this does not get the golden seal of approval, unfortunately. Which, it happens. It happens to the best of them. No, it doesn't, because the best ones do get the golden seal of approval.
Oh,
So
fuck.
That's right.
let's go ahead and wrap it up. So I was going to say...
Like a
No, I was
kebab.
going to say wrap it up like Richard didn't. But anyways, blowing past that...
Wait.
So
No, he could have done that.
Hey,
So
yeah,
anyways,
he could.
and that would have solved the whole movie.
But instead, she
no.
blew through him
Whoa. Delete everything.
with a gun, you see.
Oh, I was trying to figure out how that was going to work.
No. So
with a gun, yeah.
She sucked his dick to death.
that would be a great horror movie. So anyways, so let's bring this one to a cease. Any last words before we wrap this one up?
No,
Hereditary did it better, don't at me.
fuck them kids.
Also that.
True enough. Well, that's been it from us here at Don't Open That Door. Teach your kids to be kind to people. Definitely don't gaslight people. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door.
Especially if there's a fucking blizzard outside. Like, what the fuck? Just conserve heat.
Yeah, don't do that. What the fuck? Bye.